Welcome back to another episode of Silent Pal Stay at Home and Watch Movies. I'm here with my friend Touly. Say hi, Touly.
Hi, guys.
And today we're going to be reviewing Underwater. And just a fair warning, there's going to be spoilers up ahead, so you've been warned. A crew of oceanic researchers working for a deep sea drilling company try to get to safety after a mysterious earthquake devastates their deep water research and drilling facility located at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. My pros are as follows. I like the setting, a sci-fi movie underwater. The idea had potential. It's like space but on Earth. I really enjoyed the camera shots and the cinematography, especially the layout of the station. It made me feel like I was watching a space movie with all the pipes and stuff as they ran through the halls. That was really exciting for me. The action was, I want to say, non-stop, which can be both a pro and a con. It depends on how you see it. What is a really huge plus on my book is Cthulhu. The final creature that we see got me really excited. Finally, we have a Lovecraft-focused plot movie. But this brings me to my cons. So let me rewind and go back a bit to the beginning of the movie. It seems like the movie started off in Act 2 and was missing Act 1. What I mean by this is there was no character development, no establishing what the goal of the crew was, or the story direction. This is why when characters began dying, I didn't care much. I was more focused on seeing the monsters that were picking and coming in and taking the crew away, instead of saying, oh my god, there goes another crew member. Now, the story seems original, but if you look really closely, it looks similar to Alien. What I mean by this is that the character Ripley from Alien is similar to Nora's character in this movie. And there's more similarities to other 80s movies that deal with space or sea exploration, and it seems like they took characters from those movies and recycled them into this movie. And especially if you look at Cloverfield, a more recent movie, it seems like they also took some from that movie. What I wanted to see after I saw Cthulhu was a story of a company being the code who was sending scientists unaware to wake him up from his sleep. As we see from the ending credits, that is the kind of hint that we got, but it's not really set up in the movie from the beginning. You have a monster, a godlike monster, but you wasted it. That's all I got to say for this movie. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to my friend Touly and see how he saw this movie and what grade he gave this movie.
I did see the movie kind of like Sal did in that it reminded me of Aliens, Kristen Stewart's character Nora, and the comparison to Ripley, the underwater laboratory, which to me is kind of like synonymous to the outer space laboratory environment. Just the whole vibe of there being something chasing these guys around and not knowing what it is until they finally confront it and know how to deal with it, which then leads down to discovery of more of these creatures, and then as Sal mentioned, this humongous creature at the end, which to me came out of nowhere in a sense, at least for the movie Aliens. Like, it was pretty consistent. The way that creature looked was like consistent throughout most of the film, whereas here you went from these human-sized creatures to something that humongous. I mean, it was cool to see, like, visually, but it kind of threw me off because I was like, whoa, how did we get from here to like here all of a sudden? So it just came out of nowhere to me. To me, personally, I wish it was just focused on those things that were just chasing them at the beginning. But at the same time, it wouldn't explain to me how certain parts of the underwater laboratory got destroyed so easily, especially from the get-go, because again, something as small, and I'm putting small in quotation marks here, as like those creatures that were chasing them at the beginning, I couldn't have imagined them to be the ones to have started destroying the laboratory. So introducing that monster towards the end of the film did sort of explain that. But again, just for it to just show up like that, I felt like it was something that the movie was working towards as the biggest payoff, like a big reveal. But I think the setup could have been better. I do agree with Sal that the movie did begin somewhere like that at the beginning of the second act, and I'm okay with this. There are movies out there that kind of do this where they just throw you into like the middle of a movie, but as the movie progresses, they'll explain stuff, or in terms of like character development, and as the movie progresses, these characters will become more developed just through their conversations with another, and sometimes you get flashbacks as well, which to me is alright as long as it's not overused. But I feel like this movie didn't do a good job at any of those things. The only sense that I got where a character was sort of being developed, if you want to put it in that light, is Kristen Stewart's character Nora, because she was narrating at certain points of the movie. You kind of get a sense as to how she was feeling, but I would have liked to see the type of character who she was before she got involved in this underwater scientific endeavor, to get a sense of how she became became who she is. Because to me, from the start of the movie, it felt like she was kind of already going down this hole of like despair and not having a lot of optimism, that she's been down there for so long that she has lost track of time. I think she mentioned the concept of not being able to recognize day or night, but I'm pretty sure before then that she was a more happier or, optimistic person. So I wanted to see that difference in how she got from who she was before this project to how she was at the beginning of the film, because there was that lack of explanation or commentary or showcase. Because normally I like it for movies to show me rather than tell me, but in this movie, Kristen Stewart's character did a lot of narrating and I just had to take her word for it. But at the same time, it was more about her present self versus who she was before and how she kind of came to be who she is then. And that's what I like to see, because I like seeing characters change, either for the better or for the worse. But as long as you convince me through this process that this is how they became that person, I'm okay with that. But unfortunately, our main characters did not go through that process. And this could be said for all of the other characters as well. I mean, I would only say that maybe the only character that kind of went down this path of being a different character from who they were at the beginning was Emily, the character who was shown to be kind of like afraid to venture off into the darkness of the water when the crew decided that this was the only way for them to survive, to get to this other point of their laboratory setup. And she was shown to be very intimidated of the situation. And for her to survive at the end and to kind of see her help out the person she loved survive at the end and just overcome kind of like this fear that she had, I can kind of see that she was the only character who I felt that maybe developed as the movie progressed. But it wasn't that much though. But if I had to pick someone, I would say it's definitely her. But other than that, I do agree with Sal that I wasn't very attached to any of the characters, whether or not they survived or not. Nora's sacrifice at the end, because of this revelation she has come to, and she was willing to do what she had to do in order to keep both Emily and I think Liam was the other guy who survived, for them to live, because 2 of the 3 pods were only working at the time when they were going to escape. Again, it felt flat to me. And for that huge monster to sort of like recognize what it is that Nora was going to do to set off the reactor and dispose of it, I kind of felt that was comical in a sense, because I would have wanted that to just happen and just let the scene play out versus, oh, the monster's reacting to this. It's trying to escape. But of course, we know it's not going to be able to escape because this reaction is the finale of the film. So what's the point of it trying to escape? So to me, it felt kind of comical in that sense. I wish, Kristen Stewart would have just gone through that process of sitting off the reactor, taking a seat, staring at the creature in front of her through the glass window, and then she accepts what happens, and then that's the end of it. And then we get, of course, the propaganda that happens afterwards in the news about 2 survivors of this underwater experiment. And a part of me feel that they could have left that out. I didn't think I needed that sort of a commentary after the fact. So to me, I kind of took that as some sort of agenda behind the movie in recognizing what certain companies are doing in the world and them digging for stuff in the deep sea that might lead to something that they would either not want to find, or leading to some disaster because they might have done something inappropriate. So I kind of had that feeling at the end, because they started the movie kind of like that and they ended the movie kind of like the same theme. Have they started straying away from it, then I would have kept that idea within the realm of the movie itself. But they came back to it at the end and they were like, this is classified stuff. The company's going to keep doing what they're doing, and that's the end of the movie. And I'm thinking to myself, so then what's the moral of the story here? The concept of the movie was nice, but I think the execution wasn't there. So I'm going to give the movie a 4 out of 10. Again, lack of character development, leading to me not being invested in any of the characters, which to me is normally a very bad sign. And just the execution of the storytelling and the presentation of the creatures that were chasing them, which were made to be very threatening, but at certain times of the film, they didn't seem threatening at all because of how contrasting these creatures were in certain scenes where the characters were in danger, but you see these creatures run away or not be present when some of our characters are in like their most vulnerable state out there in the deep sea. So like these sort of things, they just weren't consistent enough for me. So yeah, 4 out of 10.
So I agree with you and the way you saw this movie. The only thing is that I didn't see the ending like you did. I saw the company in a different light. I saw them as the cult who's trying to awaken Cthulhu. And my version, as I would change the ending, would be as follows. I would basically establish the crew members hearing things due to Cthulhu waking up and them slowly turning mad, hearing things, for example, sabotaging the station, and for Nora to find notes, maybe pointing in the direction of Cthulhu, or even like the painting that Emily saw in the diving room in the movie, hinting at Cthulhu and the creatures that we saw them attacking them before we actually see the giant Cthulhu himself and his minions. Heck, maybe even the captain, he is part of the cult, and due to him losing his daughter, he tries to kill the crew, and Nora has to basically sacrifice him to save the others, even though they are sort of connected, because he did survive a previous attack on another little station that was, I think, called the Shepherd. So, slowly involve Cthulhu, but not do what they did in the movie and just show him at the end. Do what they did with the monsters, kind of like show them lurking around, make them peek around the corner. Do that with Cthulhu, appear in the distance, sort of like a Godzilla-like monster. And for me, that would be how I would change the ending. It's not like, boom, there's a giant monster, but slowly show evidence of it, and then at the end is the showdown. And yes, maybe not everybody survives, but then when nobody survives, it's the idea of the cult, which is the company. We see the documents is like, oh, something went wrong in the station and we're going to rebuild and send more crew people down there. And their whole thing is not that they want to do a research station, is they want to wake up this creature. That's their main goal behind it. So for me, I'm going to give it the same grade Touly gave it. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Like Touly said, lack of character development, the story, it was not really focused well, but the idea of the core of the movie, which it's the creature, and even the director said at the end, it is Cthulhu, and a lot of people thought it was, and they were correct about it. There is so much potential in this creature, and they had so much backstory that you can make a whole movie about this, and for this movie to fall short, it's really saddening. So I guess that does it for this review of Underwater. Please join us next time when we're going to review Ford versus Ferrari.
I wish my daddy, he were alive to see this, to feel this.
Now, this is not a machine just anybody can get in and easily control.
Absolutely not. I had no idea.
Now, you want to win Le Mans. You really want to take first place. Ken Miles is the man to do it.
Please like, comment, and subscribe. You can find our social media links below. And like always, keep watching movies.